Hello everyone, Champ Wadlin over here, and right next to me is the British Mercedes G-Wagon. I'm kidding everyone, this is supposed to be the Land Rover Defender Octa. So as you can tell, it looks quite bling, literally everyone. Look at what they did. They gave the letters over here a gold effect onto the side. Now I'm not sure if this is literally gold, it's more like kind of beige tone or something, but why? The wheels definitely don't look like something you take off the tarmac. Oh, and that gold beige effect doesn't stop there. It also is right here. Look at this. You get this matte paintwork over here, just like the rest of the bodywork, and this little symbol right here. Yeah, it definitely makes it look quite premium, don't you think? It definitely looks like something that's going to intimidate the Mercedes G-Wagon. For the interior, unlike the Mercedes G-Wagon, it definitely isn't all that sporty, and it definitely is more spacious, and the leather wrapping everywhere kind of makes me think of the Range Rover, the big Range Rover. But then at the same time, it's just like a Defender. Oh my goodness, just like leather touches everywhere. This is, and look at the pallets. The pallets are really cool at the same time. I can already confess, you're definitely not going off-roading with this thing, because this is too good for off-roading, I think. Now this particular Land Rover Defender Octa costs around 195,000 euros. Very similar price range to ultra luxury SUVs like the Mercedes Maybach GLS or the Mercedes G-Wagon. And then of course we also have the Bentley Bentayga, which isn't really that far, but it's obviously more than 200,000 euros. And then of course we have the sibling of the Land Rover Defender. Well, it's not exactly related to the Land Rover Defender, but it's the Range Rover. So it is from the same group. Well, the same company, you know, Jaguar, Land Rover. Link in the description for my videos of the Mercedes G-Wagon, the Bentley Bentayga, and of course, the Range Rover. Now with that in mind, make sure to watch this video till the end and push the subscribe button if you haven't already. Now, let's get on with the review of this Land Rover Defender Octa. Now, I had the pleasure of reviewing the Land Rover Defender, not the Octa version, the normal version. And I have to say that it is supposed to be a direct reference to its ancestor model, but with a touch of the Land Rover Discovery to it. Because when I reviewed it, I could sense that there was some Discovery vibe about it. Now, this particular Land Rover Defender model, I'm not talking about the Octa version right now, I'm talking about the Defender itself. It's quite legendary because many car manufacturers have actually drawn inspiration from the Defender itself, especially what Hyundai did with the latest Hyundai Santa Fe, and then what Toyota did with the Toyota Land Cruiser Prado. Although the Land Cruiser Prado does have traits from ancient Land Cruiser models, but then is it just coincidence how Land Rover releases this Defender and then years later Toyota comes up with a boxy design as well? Everybody's coming up with their boxy designs for their 4x4s, and that is thanks to this Defender. Although for this Octa version, is Land Rover itself drawing inspiration from the Mercedes G-Wagon here? For this Octa version, you get a V8 engine, everybody. But it doesn't stop there. Now this body paintwork is called Charant Gray. Now it does look quite nice on this Land Rover Defender. You'll notice the door handle doesn't have the matte effect to it, but it does have the paintwork that's very similar to the body paint itself. Although from certain angles it had me thinking it was supposed to be a piano black paint or something. Now all four doors get keyless entry, but already I have to tell you all my personal opinion. For a Defender to have the matte paintwork, I'd say it's a big no for me. Now in a world where many car manufacturers are racing to come up with electric cars and, you know, getting rid of their identity and designs in favor of something more cool and futuristic and modernized, I have to give it to Land Rover. They did a good job with the design overall. Like, look at this. This is supposed to be a strong reference to the ancient Land Rover Defender, which actually had two lighting over here. One was supposed to be an indicator light, and the other was supposed to be a reverse light, if I'm not mistaken, to the roof. And this D pillar over here does not have the matte gray effect to it. Instead, it's all piano black. Now, I want to talk to you all about the rear doors. There's just something very interesting about it. First of all, it's not every day, it's quite rare you see a car manufacturer putting the spare tire onto the rear door. Now, to open the rear door, you have the handle over here, but there's a button which needs to be pushed. It's over here. See this? Now, the door doesn't open automatically. It's not electric. It's got this hydraulic strut. So you just have to pull it by yourself. And you have to keep pulling because the door won't actually just open by itself. Now you would think with the spare tire onto the rear door, it would be heavy. Well, actually this door is surprisingly light, but there's something really cool. I like how narrow this area is. The fact that this part of the rear door is very narrow and then you have the window, it kind of gives me a bit of memories about the Land Rover Discovery, the 90s Land Rover Discovery. Now underneath over here you get your rear view parking camera. This Land Rover Defender does have a 360-degree parking camera. That's awesome. Now over here there's no body paintwork, thank goodness. This is supposed to be durable material, so you can roll luggages in and out, and if it makes contact with this it won't leave scratches, but I just highly recommend you guys be careful. Now for the boot space, there's something very intelligent. Unlike other ultra luxury car manufacturers, for this Land Rover Defender, you can actually make it a true off-roader by getting rid of this mat, because underneath you get a durable floor over here. So if ever you go outdoors, you will be ready. Whereas if you want to stay posh, just leave this floor mat over here and voila. But it's not all pink roses. There's just a little problem. If you leave this mat over here, it's going to cover the tether points that are on the side. So you have to face this dilemma by yourself, everybody. If it were me, I'd get rid of this mat, or I'd try to have a mat that's shorter or something. But hold on a second. You get a 230 volt socket onto the side. Now over to the interior of this Land Rover Defender Octa. Now I just want to say that my first impression is it is supposed to be a competitor against the ultra luxury car manufacturers, but one thing I have to say is that the biggest difference between the Land Rover, well, it doesn't even have soft close. For a price of 195,000 euros, it doesn't even have soft close, guys. Okay, that's already one red flag in my opinion. Now, compared to other ultra luxury SUVs like the Mercedes Maybach GLS, the Bentley Bentayga, and also the Mercedes G-Wagon, I've noticed that the Land Rover Defender is less techy. There's far less technology on this vehicle. But then in this context, you're getting the Land Rover Defender for the looks, really. The idea of this Land Rover Defender, it's supposed to be like this posh leather boot, which you wear when you go to your own garden and you do gardening. You know, so it's supposed to be that's at least the idea I'm getting right now. And I've noticed a similar problem with the Range Rover itself. It looks very nice, but when it comes to technology, it suffers a bit compared to other ultra luxury SUVs. So when I'm talking about technology, first of all, I'm talking about the presentation of the interior and also the infotainment system. The infotainment system is not on par with what you see on BMW and the Volkswagen Group and Mercedes as well. The Volkswagen Group have the best infotainment system, and that can be seen in the Bentley Bentayga. But and also the Mercedes Maybach and the Mercedes G-Wagon have a great infotainment system. And because I just mentioned BMW, I forgot to mention the BMW XM. That could be a potential competitor against this Land Rover Defender Octa. But then the biggest difference is that, likewise, the BMW XM is not exactly an off-road, it's not exactly meant for off-roading, but it definitely does look quite aggressive, and it does look quite nice with the matte paintwork, although I would never choose a matte paintwork on either of the SUVs. Check the link in the description for my review on YouTube of the BMW XM. Now, looking at this Land Rover Defender, the steering wheel is massive, and I noticed a similar problem in the Range Rover itself. It's too big, guys. But then I guess the idea is that it's meant to be easy to use when you're going off-roading, because the bigger the steering wheel, the easier the handling, everybody. This is nice, and you even get pallets, driving pallets, everyone. So that's good. Later in the video, I'm going to show you all the infotainment system and this area over here. You get dual zone climate control, and you get detailed off-road controls. So that is awesome. But realistically speaking, would you really take this thing off the tarmac? You could if you wanted to, but whether you should, that's for you to decide. You be the judge. Now, one thing I've just also noticed is that the window buttons are quite nice, but for standards of an ultra luxury SUV, I noticed quite a number of hard plastic all over the interior. But then, to be fair, it's supposed to be a Defender still, so I'm not going to judge them that much. You get two cup holders over here, and thank goodness for that. You get a central console storage, which is massive, and you even get a cool box as well. That's quite nice. And then I like how you get the storage space over here. It's really good how they've gone about it. So it's a bit of a similarity to what I've seen in electric cars. Now let's have a driver's point of view of the interior, everybody. So upon entrance, you'll notice that the driver's seat has the electric seating adjustment, and that's also for the front seat passenger. Now, when you look at the leather seats, the leather seat has a unique concept to it. This has to be the first time I've seen this leather continuous like this, because many car manufacturers would have something like another stitching over here, another stitching over there, or something, some extra details, everybody. But this has to be the first time you see this continuous detail right here. This is really cool. It's a unique concept, everyone. And then over here, you get the fabric underneath. Now, as you look at the door, there's something a bit conflicting. Like right here, you're greeted with the Defender identity, you know, the hard plastic, something durable, Meridian sound system, right? But the next thing you know, you get this like leather touch over here, which is nice, but this has me thinking it was supposed to be additional storage space. I actually thought I could open it for storage, but it turns out it's just part of the trim. So it's a nice handle though. Now having the handle right here kind of reminds me of the Land Rover Discovery, the Discovery 4 and the Discovery 3. And then I like how you get this piano black trim right here for the door bin. Steering wheel, the steering wheel is where something funny is happening. One moment you're greeted with this squidgy leather onto the steering wheel, and the steering wheel is massive. Next thing you know, you're greeted with plastic onto the steering. And look at the controls right here. No piano black like what you've seen on the Range Rover or the Range Rover Sport. Now having a seat inside this Land Rover Defender Octa, you'll notice that the gear stick is right here. It's very similar to what I've seen in the Range Rover Sport, at least the previous generation Range Rover Sport. And so let's just turn on all the electronics. You'll see all the details right here. This has to be one of the only vehicles with physical buttons still, because everybody is obsessing with huge touch screens. Although I know that the Bentley Bentayga has a good number of buttons, so that's a plus. And then of course we also have the Maybach with its soft touch buttons, and the Mercedes G-Wagon as well with its soft touch buttons. But the Range Rover has also resorted to a lot of soft touch and a massive screen, so that's not exactly a plus. If you want something a bit old school leaning, this Land Rover Defender should be on your shopping list. Now over here, you'll notice you get a digital instrument cluster, everyone. And then over here, this is supposed to be your infotainment system. Now I've been around many Range Rovers and Land Rovers, and they all have this similar infotainment system. But I have to say that the infotainment system is a bit laggy by a nanosecond, if I'm being honest. It's not as engaging as what you see in BMW and the Volkswagen group. Mercedes also has a good infotainment system. I really liked the detail I saw in some of their vehicles. Whereas with this Land Rover Defender for a price of 195,000 euros, this infotainment system looks like right now, I'm inclined to say even Google Map has more details than this. Now, another thing I also found a bit problematic is the fact that they put the air vents right above over there. So when it's a hot day, the air is supposed to come towards me, but I have a feeling that this area is going to obstruct some of the airflow. Now, towards the rear seats, this is definitely going to make the G-Wagon cry. Just kidding, everybody. It's nothing sporty, nothing really. I mean, it's a price of 195,000 euros we're talking, and I already look at this. This definitely doesn't look like it. I've been around many ultra luxury SUVs, and they all have more comfort features, or they have more interesting things going on to it. Whereas when you look at this Land Rover Defender Octa, it's really good how they try to keep the Defender identity, but then it would have been nicer if it was more premium than this, because look at this. It's already the handle squeaks a little bit as I hold on to it. Oh wow, this is okay. Right, I'm just gonna climb into the interior without touching that handle too much. Already one thing I've noticed is that the seat is squidgy. Let's close this door. So the door handle, first of all, it already annoys me how the door doesn't have a soft close to it, so I have to close it with a bit of force. Right, so the door handle looks nice, but then as you feel underneath, there's this rubber effect, which is a bit annoying in my opinion. And then also you get the air conditioning over here for rear seat passengers. So this is good. And then rear seat pocket is nice, but it's very firm to pull, you see, and it's not very spacious. And the door bin is very minimal, everyone. So in terms of practicality, I feel like the Bentley Bentayga and the Mercedes GLS Maybach is better, but that's just my opinion. And to be honest, I noticed this similar problem in the Mercedes G-Wagon as well. And for this price range, I also think that the BMW XM is also more interesting in terms of practicality and in terms of comfort features and luxury features. Now over here you get this armrest, which is not exactly, I mean, it's just an armrest with 2 cup holders. That's it. So no smart feature, maybe some storage or something, you see. Because for the rest, it's not very different from the Land Rover Defender, the normal version, guys. So here's my conclusion of the Land Rover Defender Octa. This Land Rover Defender Octa is quite a unique ultra luxury SUV. I'm not going to say it's the most interesting, and I highly doubt that for its price this is actually a dream vehicle, because everybody's right away going to dream for a Lamborghini Urus or the Mercedes G-Wagon. Because I just mentioned the Mercedes G-Wagon, it brings me down to the question, is this supposed to be a British G-Wagon? Well, the answer to this is it's a big no. It's not a British G-Wagon at all, because the G-Wagon, it seems like they aimed for a more sporty look, and they at the same time did a good job keeping the original G-Wagon ambience to it. Whereas when you look at this Land Rover Defender, it's a bit of a conflict as to what exactly they were intending. Because one moment you're greeted with a lot of ultra luxury material, and then next moment you see something that conflicts everyone. Whereas what I like about the G-Wagon is that they actually do a good job of blending things together, or they actually do a good job of making the theme appropriate to the trim level you chose. So if you want an off-road centric G-Wagon, you can choose to configure it that way. Or if you want a sporty centric G-Wagon, you can choose to configure it that way as well. Whereas for a price of 195,000 euros, I have an impression that this Land Rover Defender has a bit of an identity crisis. And when I say identity crisis, I mean in the context of that it's not the design, it's just the trim levels and the overall aspect of this. Like a matte paintwork combined with normal wheels that are not even sporty, and then the interior that has a rather off-road centric feel, and at the same time squidgy leather. What is going on exactly? If you really want a Land Rover Defender Octa, I think this is quite a unique competitor to be keeping as a collection. It's quite a unique vehicle, I'd say, and it definitely looks like something cool when you go outdoors for the weekend with a little bit of class, or with a little bit of comfort, I'd say. Now, as I mentioned earlier, to me, this looks like this fancy leather boots you wear when you go to your own garden to do some gardening. You see, it's those leather boots which you don't care about having it all messy later and everything, because you can easily clean it up. Now, be careful with the body paint. It's a matte paint effect. If you really want to go outdoors very often, I highly recommend you choose something that's not a matte paintwork, especially for the Land Rover Defender. And then be very careful when you put equipment onto the roof, like roof railings and heavy items as well, like the kayak on the roof. Would you all like my personal opinion of this Land Rover Defender Octa? My personal opinion is that for a price of 195,000 euros, it is not exactly on my shopping list. It's not exactly something that's going to raise my eyebrows. It's not something that's going to make me think, oh my goodness, if you know what I'm saying. Because I've been around various ultra luxury SUVs like the BMW XM, I was about to call it an X5, and then the Mercedes GLS Maybach, and then also the Rolls-Royce Cullinan, which is not exactly the same price as this. The Rolls-Royce Cullinan is way more expensive, but another more interesting competitor would be the Bentley Bentayga. And at this point, for me, the most convincing would be the Bentley Bentayga or the Range Rover. These two make the most sense at the moment. But if you want something that's more sport-oriented, the Lamborghini Urus makes most sense, I'd say. In fact, it's everyone's favorite. Everyone dreams of the Lamborghini Urus. I think the Lamborghini Urus makes more sense if you want something more sport-oriented. But if you want something that's got a bit of both worlds, like something that's got the off-road history, but then at the same time can be sporty if you need it to be sporty, I feel like the Mercedes G-Wagon still maintains the trophy. It still keeps the throne. Because, this, again, as I mentioned earlier, this Defender, it seems to be experiencing a bit of an identity crisis at this point. In my opinion, the best Defender is the non-ultra luxury version, not the Octa version. The best Defender would be the normal Defender. So the ones that cost less than 100,000 euros and the ones that compete directly against the Ineos Grenadier, the Toyota Land Cruiser Prado, that one. Now, I'm not trying to say that the ultra luxury is bad. No, I'm not trying to say this. If you like the Land Rover Defender Octa, you should totally get it. But if you want my perspective on this, I feel like with the Octa, compared to other vehicles worth 195,000 euros or more, you're definitely missing out on a lot of goodies, a lot of gadgets. It's mostly about the looks, you see. Whereas you could just get the normal Defender and you have no compromise on the looks. You still have that leather boot you need for your gardening session. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment in the comment section below sharing me your thoughts of this Land Rover Defender Octa. Do you think it's a British G-Wagon, or do you have some other thoughts about it? Let me know your thoughts, because I'm very curious to know, especially when compared to its competitors. And check the link in the description for my review of the Bentley Bentayga, the BMW XM, and of course, other competitors of this Land Rover Defender Octa. And of course, there are links in the description for my YouTube videos where I review other Land Rover models and Range Rovers.